Why can't Trump comply with that?
So you're saying that a judge should decide how and when money is spent
a judge is saying,
for years, and not the president of the United
Scott,
States?
Let me explain
You're a governor,
a little bit
you know.
more. Let me explain it a little bit more slowly. A judge is saying,
you don't have to talk to me like that.
Congress.
I have a position on this, and you have an opinion. We can disagree.
Yeah, but I'm saying.
What's happening, everybody? I've got another Scott Jennings for you today. This is a great clip, and it's super relevant given the recent Judiciary Committee hearing regarding judicial overreach and constitutional limits on federal courts. But for all of you complaining Cathys, just a heads up, it's from a month ago. Fair? Scott Jennings does his usual thing on this one while schooling the entire panel about the fact that district federal courts don't enact policy. Anyway, let's watch Scott Jennings drop knowledge on a panel of woke, unhinged contributors. That's a misnomer, huh? Let's go.
But we do know that judges do get to say whether the executive is complying with the law or not. That's been the case for decades, hundreds of years.
Well, I think there's a difference between saying whether you're complying with the law, and then you have these individual district court judges setting effectively broad federal policy that is specifically reserved for the president of the United States. I think we do have a constitutional crisis, and it's being caused by these judges. They're not here to tell us. They're not here to tell us how to spend the money. They're not here to set broad federal policy. That is the president's job as elected by the people. These judges are supposed to be settling discrete, specific matters, not policy setting. I think Vance is right. I think Trump has a point. And these judges want nothing more to continue the lawfare against
I don't
Trump.
think anybody's going to be surprised to hear that you think Trump is
they're
right.
doing this on
However, just on a real important technical point here, one of the main disputes is whether the executive branch can just decide not to spend money that another co-equal branch has said ought to be spent. So it's not just about forcing the federal government to spend money. It's saying Congress said you need to spend this money this way, and the executive branch saying, no, I don't feel like it, and the courts say you have to.
Well, my answer to that simply is, it is the executive branch's job to figure out how to spend money once it is appropriated by Congress. And sometimes they spend money that's not been appropriated. But the correct political control is between the executive and the Congress, not some random
I want to return to that because
think,
that is also a major legal question.
Do you really think that J.D. Vance's tweet is only about these district judges?
I think
this is about, this is a slippery slope because
piece.
They're going to move on to what the next ruling is. They're setting the stage so that they can say that the executive branch has control now over the judicial branch. They're setting the stage.
No,
and for people who think that President Trump has not planned all of this, he pushes the envelope constantly. There was January 6th. He has a myriad of people out there that would support the executive branch being able to rule over the judicial branch because there have been no repercussions. And when there are not consequences and when there are not repercussions, you get away with it.
I get it. You want individual federal judges who hate Donald Trump.
No, I don't.
To tie him up for 4 years.
No, I don't.
If you want a big
Not
policy questions decided, let the Supreme Court do it. But in the interim, the executive has to be allowed to govern.
How do we get to the Supreme Court? Can
Just
somebody tell me?
And that's fine. But you can't tie him up until it gets there.
So just to provide some background and context, should be popping up on the screen now. This is the tweet that they're all discussing and that sparked this conversation by J.D. Vance. I guess in case anybody's just listening, I'll read it. February 2025, Vance tweeted, "If a judge tried to tell a general how to conduct a military operation, that would be illegal. If a judge tried to command the attorney general on how to use her discretion as a prosecutor, that's also illegal. Judges aren't allowed to control the executive's legitimate power." How is this news? What's controversial about this? With this judicial overreach stuff, I want to talk about something in particular that's been bothering me. Remember like 2 or 3 weeks ago when a district court judge said a plane full of violent criminals from Venezuela that were in the U.S. illegally or being returned to their country had to turn around? I'm under no delusion that I understand politics more than any of you, and I'm certainly not as knowledgeable about federal law as various legal experts and other commentators. With that said, someone help me understand 3 things. Why on earth would anyone want to turn that plane around? 2, why isn't there more outrage about this judge's order? The crazy thing about this whole thing is the fact that there actually is outrage. but it's aimed in the complete opposite, incorrect direction. And 3, who on earth would possibly commit time, money, and manpower to opposing this? Psychopaths? Look, I know, it's Democrats doing it simply because it's Donald Trump. But what argument could you possibly make to a judge that would make him say, you know what? We need those illegal immigrants that have committed heinous crimes in this country. Let's get them back here ASAP. I mean, if you're someone that votes Democrat, if anything could wake you up to the BS your party polls, isn't this it? There have to be a couple of Democrats out there that are rational, right? I mean, statistically, there have to be. Did any of those people hear about this and say, wait, you want to turn around a plane in midair that's loaded with criminals sent back to the country they came from? Yeah, this isn't the party for me. If no one responded that way, we're truly living in a bizarre world. Anyway, well, I guess that was a tangent. No, that's not a tangent. That's completely relevant. Anyway, let's get back to the video.
Supreme Court, we get to the Supreme Court by the judge's ruling, things going to appeal, and then it goes.
And in the
up,
meantime, what happens? Trump can't act.
In
Trump can't act.
the meantime, you're supposed to comply with the court's rulings. Am I wrong about that?
Well, you're supposed to comply, but Scott's absolutely right in that the court cannot say you have to spend these dollars today. So as a governor, I dealt with this. We got things challenged in state court and federal court. It's all judge shopped, by the way. Judges don't randomly get these cases. There's a reason that these cases are filed in Boston, the Boston court, or a certain district, Rhode Island, because they know they're going to get a judge that is politically
great
favorable.
bipartisan practice as well.
Yeah. Both sides do it. I mean, I think
how many times that district court and judge one guy in Texas shut down Joe Biden?
But you raised the right point. Should the president, the singular president, should he have to share the presidency with 300 district court judges? No, absolutely not.
But the point, though, you made a really good point that there have been judges that shut down some of President Biden's executive actions, and they understand, the Biden administration understood
and he ignored
the checks and balances.
The Supreme Court tried to stop me, but they never will.
But not in the way that Donald Trump is.
Who said that? Joe Biden.
Yeah,
Joe
but
Biden.
Donald Scott, he actually didn't ignore it.
He did.
Right.
They continued to plow
No,
forward with student
he
aid. How
didn't.
much did they spend?
Let me set the record.
We actually got dinged on the student
I
loan
hated
debt
the
forgiveness.
student loan forgiveness policy.
What did he say out loud?
I thought it was a ridiculous policy. I thought it was unconstitutional. I predicted it would get struck down. It did get struck down, and I applauded. He did not ignore it, though. He went and tried under a different law.
So he ignored it.
You're allowed. No,
that's not ignoring it. That
So
is
he was not ignoring it. He was trying to do it.
He literally defied it.
But let me just understand where you stand. If a district court judge rules in a way that the president dislikes, should the president listen or should the president defy?
If a district court judge tries to usurp the authority of the chief executive of this country, he should absolutely defy it. There's a difference between broad policy decisions and discrete disputes between parties. That's the difference. If I want a policy decided, I'll take it to the
But
Supreme
what about
Court.
checks and balances?
Well, Scott, you're
Of a district court judge who elected
What I
them.
can't get with is you talking in these bizarre, broad generalities.
It's not bizarre.
Every single one of these cases deals with a discrete issue, okay? It deals with funding. It deals with with certain constitutionally or statutorily appointed roles. Every single one of these things is a distinct thing, and they're all being dealt with by different judges. So it's not broad swaths of policy here. When the court says Congress appropriated this money, you must unfreeze it while we litigate this. Why can't Trump comply with that?
So you're saying that a judge should decide how and when money is spent
A judge is saying
for years, and not the president of the United States?
Scott, let me explain
You're a governor,
little bit
you
more.
know.
Let me explain it a little bit more slowly. A judge is saying
You don't have to talk to me like that.
Congress.
I have a position on this, and you have an opinion. We can disagree.
Yeah, but I'm saying you listen to me because you're not listening, and you're making claims that are not connected to the facts. The judge is saying
Maybe you are.
Congress appropriated a certain amount of money.
Yeah.
We need to litigate this.
Okay.
While we litigate this, we're going to put a hold on the actions that you took that might be unconstitutional.
So while we
That's
litigate,
part of the process. Why
this,
can't-
I'm
why
a
doesn't
judge
that
and
work?
I'm in charge of the executive branch, and you're not. Forget it.
Yeah,
I totally
you just
disagree.
can't compel the executive.
District court judges determine what's legal. They don't set broad public policy reserved for the president. Now, it's just a fact that both sides try to appoint as many judges as they feel are favorable to their party when they're in office. It's a very unfortunate part of this game. Maybe that'll change at some point. But does it make any sense that a judge in Rhode Island can rule on matters for the whole country that can override what the President of the United States is attempting to accomplish? No. Whether they're Republican or Democrat, let's call these judges what they are, non-elected bureaucrats. I see this as a big problem, and it needs to be addressed ASAP, because here's the biggest problem I see. If once a federal district judge imposes any kind of injunction, all movement on whatever is being challenged has to stop until it's appealed to the Supreme Court, what will ever get done? You see what I mean, right? If the Democrats or whoever is the minority party at the time can just challenge everything that the president does, file injunctions, get the cases assigned to a Democrat judge, have the injunctions upheld, and force the executive branch to stop whatever they're doing, nothing will ever get done. Donald Trump has a finite amount of time to fulfill his campaign promises, and the American people want him to have the chance to do it. So leave him alone. But what do you think about this conversation about judicial overreach and the limits of federal district courts? I'd really be interested to hear what you guys have to say. Let me know in the comments. Anyway, that's it for this video. If you like watching videos of Scott Jennings go to town on a bunch of liberals, then click on one of the videos that's about to pop up on your screen. Otherwise, as always, I've got the best viewers in the world. I'm so grateful that every one of you took just a couple minutes out of your day to watch my video. It means more to me than you'll ever know. Never forget, Jesus loves you. I'll see you guys.